One of the most common criticisms of the Klitschkos is they only win because they outsize their opponents. Now, there is no truth to this. If everyone knows of the Whack fight, when Wladimir Klitschko fought Whack greatly outsized him, outreached him, and outweighed him. Whack was 6'8", 82-inch reach, 255 pounds. Whack even tested positive for steroids after the fight. Now, Wladimir dominated him, won every single round of that fight. Now, that's a well-known example, but at the start of the early 2000s, Wladimir fought two top 10 opponents. Derek Jefferson, who was a known power puncher, could have been about the same height as Wladimir or half an inch taller than Wladimir, had a longer reach than Wladimir, and outweighed Wladimir by 15 pounds. Wladimir knocked him out in the second round. There was then Jamil McLean. Jamil McLean again was about half an inch taller than Wladimir, outreached Wladimir and outweighed Wladimir by 23 pounds, and Wladimir dominated him and stopped him in the 10th round. Now obviously Ray Austin as well, same size as Wladimir. Wladimir fought him with a broken right hand, knocked him out just using his left hand in the second round. Tony Thompson is about the same height as Wladimir or an inch shorter, but outreaches Wladimir and outweighed Wladimir in the fights as well, and Wladimir beat him, knocked him out during both fights. Also, Wladimir beat Pia Wolfgram, who, okay, is a bit shorter, a bit less reach than Wladimir, but he had a 45-pound weight advantage over Wladimir, and Wladimir knocked him out in the first round, and he was an Olympic silver medalist with known punching power. The thing with boxing is you need to remember it's a weight divided sport, and it's a weight divided sport for good reason. The heavier you are, the more punch resistance you have, and the more punching power you have, on average. So if you fight a smaller guy, on average, you've got a massive advantage over him. Now Vitali Klitschko as well fought a guy called Tim Hoffman. Now, Tim Hoffman was taller than Vitali, longer reach than Vitali, because Vitali's got actually a short reach of 79 inches, and outweighed Vitali by about 5 pounds, and Vitali had no problem dominating him and destroying him over 12 rounds. And Tim Hoffman also was an undefeated fighter with a record of 22 and 0 losses. The other thing is, a lot of people say Nicolas Valouv. Why did they never fight Nicolas Valouv? Well, the fact of the matter is, they offered three times to fight Valouv. Twice by Vitali and once by Wladimir Klitschko. Once before the David Haye fight, and once after the David Haye fight for $2.5 million. And I'm not sure it was Don King that his fault it was turned down the offer, or Valouv did not want to fight the Klitschkos. But what I think is Don King had Valouv with a WBA belt, and he didn't want any risk of losing the champion and losing the money from the fights. That's what I think. The thing people need to remember about Wladimir is he's one of the few champions that's 46 or 47% of the opponents he fights outweigh him, sometimes by 2 or 3 pounds, but sometimes by as much as 45 pounds. Throughout history, Joe Louis, for example, was a big guy for his time, and he outweighed the majority of his fighters, his opponents as well. Sonny Liston, again, would be thought of as a small heavyweight these days, was known as the Bear at the time, and outweighed about 90% of his opponents. Muhammad Ali was also a massive heavyweight for his time, at 6'3", 78-inch reach, 215 pounds, and he outweighed 75% of his opponents. George Foreman, again, outweighed about 95% or more of his opponents. Mike Tyson, even when he was dominating in the 80s, just the 80s period though, he outweighed 65% of his opponents. So it's quite normal for a champion to outweigh the opponents he fights, but with Wladimir Klitschko, he only outweighs 46 or 47, he only outweighs 54% of his opponents. So that's my video about that.